So I think what's interesting about fueling this entire move is so few stocks are leading the charge because it's market cap weighted with things like the SPY and the Qs. But at the same time, these are also some of the most profitable companies in the world. So it almost feels like this is safe technology to invest in because it's companies like Apple and Amazon and Google and Microsoft, right? I mean, these are household names that have been some of the biggest performers over the last 15 years that we've mostly had a bull market.
Okay, so obviously recently we've seen a great deal of push recently in the stock market. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to be pulling back at any point. But what are your kind of thoughts on that? And what are your thoughts on how AI is driving that move right now?
I think there's some interesting topics to discuss right now in that space. You know, AI. There's a lot to be said about that, and we'll unravel the conversation as we go. I think there's a lot to AI, but I also think that this is, a very typical, very bearish, very oversold market that needed a catalyst, and AI was that thing that got people's minds off of the end of the world, doom and gloom, right? We watched 2022 be a place where there was nowhere safe to put your money. You couldn't put it in bonds, you couldn't put it in crypto, you couldn't put it in stocks or anything else. It was all just getting wiped out, and everybody was feeling the pain. And as we see bear markets over the history of forever, they kind of always go in this fashion, and investor sentiment, market sentiment really gets down in the bottom of the barrel. And we always need something that kind of turns people's attention somewhere. We were just chatting before this, and AI is a big hot topic right now. But if it's not AI, it's 5G, it's crypto, it's cannabis stocks, it's whatever, right? And so we always need something to kind of grab onto. The thing that I think is a little bit different from AI than some of these other hypes that we've been into, maybe one of the most recent big ones was certainly 5G, right? 5G is going to change the world. And we're all thinking, I've got my cell phone. I do more than I need to from it. Like, how is 5G going to change my life, right? But AI is a little bit, I think this is, of these hot topics that's hitting the market, I think it's going to have a little bit more legs than a lot of these other things that have gotten us really excited and kind of come and faded.
And to that point, what's interesting about this is, essentially you take the S&P 500 and you say it's being led by 10 stocks, right? And you take NASDAQ, which is 100, and you say it's led by 7 to 10 stocks. So I think what's interesting about fueling this entire move is so few stocks are leading the charge because it's market cap weighted with things like the SPY and the Qs. But at the same time, these are also some of the most profitable companies in the world. So it almost feels like this is safe technology to invest in because it's companies like Apple and Amazon and Google and Microsoft, right? I mean, these are household names that have been some of the biggest performers over the last 15 years that we've mostly had a bull market, outside of surviving the bottom in 2008 and 9 when we finally bottomed out March, April 2009, and then having just an amazing bull run before the disruption in 2018, 2020 with COVID, stimulus and bazooka heard around the world with everybody through 2021. And then, Jared and I called 2022 kind of the great reality or the great reset, because everything was overvalued. I mean, we had technical indicators expressing that across the board. I mean, tech looked like it should drop, and it did, and then everything followed through with it. I mean, we had a great year last year, thankfully, because of like energy and pro-inflation trades. But for the most part, once you got to June of last year, nothing was safe. Bonds were down, stocks were down, didn't matter what sector you're in, there was nowhere to hide. Forex was a great market, but we had wild swings in Forex with the dollar and the yen crosses. So going back to this with AI, I mean, some of the safest and largest and most profitable companies are really at the forefront of this movement, and they're getting a lot of love. And then you take a company like NVIDIA that just makes semiconductors, and they're just producing chips for all the powering of these computers to fuel AI and basically be a framework for it. So it's interesting. And so we talked about this earlier before we started live. Does this market continue to allow other stocks to catch up and we still have a broad market rally? Or is it the hype has been pumped in and built in and priced in, and maybe a pause, or maybe the Fed comes in? We were just talking about this before we started live with you. Is the Fed really going to come swinging tomorrow with something the market doesn't want to hear? When we're at that time of the season where it's the second half of the years, or maybe some sector rotation and positioning where we have like a slow August and maybe a September effect where historically it's the most bearish market in the year. Or does the market care at all? And maybe it doesn't. Maybe this year is just like the FOMO is real, and the best way to be involved is just to continue to participate and blinders on, trade what you see, and it's probably going to new highs. It wouldn't be a surprise to have new highs on the SPY and the Q this year, and even the Dow. I mean, we are not that far away. I mean, we're within single digits of both of them now after this crazy recovery.